What's happening, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome in. My name's Jason Priester of the Clemson Insider. Want to send out a big thank you to everybody that's tuned in tonight. Want to thank our sponsor over at A Glass, two locations over in the PD, one in Florence, one in Sumter. Take care of all your auto glass needs. They do replacement, they do repair. Look them up today. A Glass for when you need a glass. Get yourself a free quote, myaglass.com. We are expecting some company in here tonight, here in a few minutes. We'll bring him in as soon as he jumps on board here. But with each passing week, man, we're getting a little bit closer, a little bit closer. You can really start to sense, especially if you're up here in this area. I've been up in Clemson for over a week now, man, but you can kind of sense it. It's just in the air. Clemson had their first scrimmage Saturday. If you listen to some of the things that Dabo Swinney said after the scrimmage, particularly, when he talked about how competitive it was, there's a lot of things I like about some of the things he had to say. Usually after some of those things, we're hearing about procedural penalties, those kind of offsides, pre-snap stuff, and it just didn't. It sounded like they didn't have any of those issues. It sounded like they had two, if I'm remembering right. Doesn't sound like the defense is way ahead of the offense. The way it tends to be a lot of times early in camp, or that the offense is way ahead of the defense. It just sounds like two sides of the ball kind of going at it. Got to hear from a bunch of the offensive linemen today. Listen to them talk about the new mindset, with the defense, about the aggressiveness, and how they're just playing more freely and flying around. Judging by a couple of things I heard about the scrimmage the other day, it kind of sounds, and even listening to some of Dabo's comments after the scrimmage, it sounds like Tom Allen was throwing a lot of different, or at least some different looks. I shouldn't say a lot. I don't know how much they were throwing at it in the scrimmage, but throwing some different looks at the offense, in the scrimmage, and they confused Cade on one, and he throws a pick, ends up being returned for a touchdown. I can't remember if it was Tink or Strozier, one of those guys. Both of them had interceptions. I can't remember which one picked off which quarterback, because the other one picked off Vizina. But so those are the kind of things you like to hear. I mean, I think everybody's kind of amped up, kind of waiting to see exactly what this defense is going to be, after the way, it kind of performed last year, particularly down the stretch, in some of those final games, Louisville, heck, even the game against Citadel, watching Lenore's run all over that defense there in Death Valley in November, and then the way Texas just kind of had their way with them offensively. It's I think everybody's kind of anxious to see exactly how improved this thing will be. Another thing you hear, I mean, I know we've talked about how much work some of those guys have put in over the offseason, like Peter Woods, and now we heard some guys say today how same thing about T.J. Parker and DeMonte Capehart, who looks a little bit slimmed down. And Capehart's a guy that's kind of, he's had some bad luck with the injury bug. Maybe if he's in a little bit better, I don't want to say a little bit better shape, but maybe if he's in a little bit better of a spot physically, not to suggest he wasn't in the past, but just that he's even better than he was. Maybe in turn that kind of helps him stay healthy. Because they could, even though I think they got some depth at tackle, man, I think he's as disruptive of a guy as they've got up front on that defensive line. Got word today that Walker Parks is hurt, which is, sucks for him, man. He just cannot catch a break. Just that's a big part of I think why he came back this year for his sixth season because he just had so much bad injury luck last year and he wanted to have one more year and now it looks like he's banged up again. I don't know how serious it is. We're gonna have to wait and see. I'm not sure they know how serious it is yet, or at least last I heard, anyways. But so now you go from getting four starters, if it's something that's going to keep him out for a while. You go from having four starters back to three starters back, which I still think Clemson's in a pretty good spot, up front. It's you got some guys that have played a lot of football, like Harris Sewell, Colin Sadler, Elijah Thurman, who kind of got his feet wet before getting hurt last year. He said today he's been repping at all five spots. So, it sounds like they're getting ready for him to play anywhere. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring my man on here. I want y'all to give a big welcome to Mr. Brandon Ford, former Clemson tight end. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We very much appreciate you giving up some of your free time to join us tonight and answer some of these guys' questions. It gives a different point of view from a former player.
Yes, sir.
And a guy with much more football IQ than I will ever have. And you come on just in the right time, man, because I'm fixing to hit on the first one.
What you got?
Oh, let's see here. What position battles need to be settled in camp?
Well, if I had to say, definitely, I think the running backs is one of the few. Obviously, you saw what Randall could do in just one game. You saw some kind of promise there with the couple carries he had versus Texas. Obviously, he's fast, he's big, he's physical, and he's a senior, so he's played some ball. But then you have the freshman. You have also Davison, who's another who you can kind of. That's like a three-headed monster. You got experience in that backfield with Adams as well. So it's one of those things where it's a battle for sure. I think, like I said last week, that Randall's going to give us a lot of experience, a lot of help. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on him, and I think he has a chance to shock a lot of people. I expect the freshman to be talented. Not sure how much he can handle, but I think as the season goes on with the experienced quarterback, wide receivers, takes a lot of load off of him. So I think we'll be able to get a good bit out of that backfield.
I heard some good things about Randall at the scrimmage Saturday. I heard he looked really good.
I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm not gonna spoil anything as bad as I want to, but let me just tell you this: what you just said is correct. And a lot of people compare him to some say Todd Gurley stylish with the height and the weight. Leonard Fournette a little more linear. And I just think anytime you have and I don't want to say a one-hit wonder, but anytime you have a guy who comes in and you don't really have film on him in a certain position, you can strike a lot of phases for us in a good way because nobody knows what he can do at running back. They just saw a glimpse of him. They know he's fast. They know he's physical. He obviously can catch, so that's get out the backfield. But nobody knows what his specialties are. Is he going to be a home run hit guy? Is he going to be a power back? Nobody knows. So everybody's going to be keying on number two in his supporting cast. And I think that's going to be the difference in his success.
You're going to have to pick your poison with that offense.
Right.
Do you want to, kind of stack the box and key on Randall in that running game, or do you want to play back and focus on slowing down those receivers? So something's going to be there. And yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. I think Randall's going to be better than some people think this year.
If I'm a coordinator, I'm shaking my head and scratching it all night because you got Antonio Williams, Brian Wesco, and TJ outside, and those guys are elite. especially the two freshmen coming in. And obviously, we know the past history of the wide receiver U and all of that. And when you have a quarterback that's played a lot of ball and that looked really good as the season progressed last year, and he might have played his best game against Texas, in my opinion, you're in for a long night. Because with the experience of the OL coming back, and you can say young running backs, this, that, and the third, but when you're on your heels trying to figure out who to cover, who to stop, this could be a long night.
Yeah, and as far as any other position battles, I would say punter. You got at least one spot open along the offensive line, and the spot who's going to fill R.J. Mickens' spot.
Yes. Honestly, man, it's gonna be interesting to see how and who we go with. Mickens was such a aggressive, tall, I mean, just long kid that could do so much for you. And I'm anxious to see who comes out of that spot. I'm gonna just kind of leave that battle for a question mark for the fans to see, because I think it's gonna be interesting. Honestly, man, it's a lot of talent back there, but I think it's gonna come down to a rotation in the first game. I'm not sure if we're gonna have a solid one just yet, but I know you got Hampton on one side, you got Terrell on the other side. It's gonna be interesting to see who kind of gets that spot, and I'm anxious to see, because they've been kind of back and forth right now. But I think that's definitely another battle as well.
All right, next one. Do you feel like Parks and Barnes missed games? You don't have to give details. Just seems that way, especially not having Parks speak today. Yeah, I can't answer that about Parks, but I don't. It doesn't sound like Barnes was going to miss games.
Well, I think especially early in the season, you don't want to get too much in giving away what may happen in that first game, or who may play and who may not, or who may start and who may what. Sometimes you can give an edge to an opponent. I think they're going to really go down to the wire until we get literally of the game week, and you got to start reporting who's not, who will, who's starting, who won't. And I think that's always been Coach Sweeney model, never giving out too much information, never showing a lot. Because like I know, when you get those games early on, you don't want to. Those are the games where you don't know what kind of team you got in game one. You know what kind of team you got game 5, 6, 7. So what could be disadvantages for us could be also advantages for us in ways, but advantages for the opponent if they start keying on what we have and what we don't have early.
Yeah, I bet Dabo just loves that new report. None of this, no more day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, he's. It's funny that you say that, because I've been around 2 coaches my whole life, 2 of them, and they're similar. And I don't know if you saw the ESPN thing with Sweeney and Belichick. And Belichick is the guy who, you can ask this guy 100 questions over and over and over. He will give you the 100th answer over and over and over, because he's not going to give anything. And Sweeney's kind of taking that role too of, I'm going to give you a little bit, but you ain't getting what you want.
Is the number 5 AP ranking too high, too low, or about right?
Honestly, we're living in a world where the media and, based on what you did last year, what you're coming back with, is always going to hype a team. I honestly, in my experience, I don't like being ranked, because you got a lot to prove. It kind of reminds me of 2011 when we weren't ranked, and we went on that tear to beat Auburn. We beat Florida State, and I think Virginia Tech was the other one. And we kind of gained respect from everybody. I think when you're ranked too high, kind of like last year, we were ranked, and we that first game, we didn't have an identity yet against Georgia. We started off strong in the first half, and then kind of game got away from us. So just from experience, I don't really care about the ranking. I don't like to be ranked too high. I like to gain that respect. But with this team coming back, what we have, I would say that's pretty accurate. And I would think these guys have something to prove, especially the way we ended the season, ACC championships. And, the game was a lot closer against Texas. People try to say, oh, we lost badly. We didn't lose badly. It was literally It was literally a couple plays. And if we're not playing in Texas when RJ Mickens catches this pick six, you talking about a whole different game. Because that block was as clean as it gets ahead of the play. But hey, we're gonna let that slide. We're gonna just move forward and we're gonna go for it.
Yeah, I think it's about right. I was thinking 4, 5, 6. We were actually talking about this about 10 minutes before it came out earlier today while we were waiting on practice to end. We all kind of were guessing it was going to be 5. But, I mean, who you going to put ahead of them? I mean, again, like I said, 4, 5, 6. That would if you put them at 6, that puts Georgia, Notre Dame ahead of them. I mean, other than that, who are you going to put ahead of them? Oregon, Alabama. I don't know that any of those schools should be ranked ahead of them.
I mean,
how much they got coming back. I mean,
I had a feeling, when I saw and you're talking about the AP poll, right? Yeah.
It came out today.
When I saw the poll that came out today, they had Texas, I believe, was 1. Can't remember who's 2, but I think Penn State's 2, Ohio State's 3, and
Clemson's 4.
Clemson is 4, and I'm trying to think who was that 15. There was 1 15. Georgia. All right, so initially I said, okay, they're probably going to throw in Texas or Georgia just because of what they've done over the course of the years. Recruitment's been great. They got some guys coming back. In Georgia, very powerful running game. Had a great freshman running back last year. You look at Texas, the hype is over Arch Manning. Everybody's trying to figure out, what is this kid? Is he as good as his uncles were? Is he as good as grandfather was? So you figure one of those two is going to be in there. They're always going to throw a Big Ten team in there. Typically Ohio State. Penn State did really well last year, so I can see why they put them up there as well, even though we stole their defensive coordinator. We'll see how good they really are. And I think we're just, that 4 spot. You can put us in 5, however you want to look at the polls, judge it. But I really think we're right where we are when you look at what's coming back, who's coming back, especially when you got Alabama, who didn't live up to their standards of quote unquote saving, and they have a question mark on their heads as well, not being in the top 5, but I believe they're definitely in the top 10. I just think that you're always going to have a team, and 9 times out of 10, if it ain't Clemson, it was a Florida State. And I even, when I saw SMU in the top 25, top 20, I was like, man, I mean, SMU's a growing program as well. And if you don't believe me, then you better look out for them again this year, because listen, I even say this, I've been playing against them on College 2025, and the same way they run that offense last year in that championship is the same way they run it now. It is quick, doop, doop, doop. So,
and they got the quarterback back.
And the quarterback is back. And they had a lot of transfers. A lot of them came from Miami. A lot of them came from Florida. I mean, that coach is doing really well with what he's building over there.
Yeah, I kind of assumed they'd be at 5 with Georgia ahead of them and Notre Dame right behind them. But I think Georgia right there at 4, 5, 6. I think that's about right. This is the one I was waiting for. Talking to people who was at the scrimmage, we ran the ball pretty well. Is that a reflection on the O-line or same thing as last year? I'm basically saying that's something to worry about with the defense.
All right, let me say this. Iron sharpens iron. This kind of reminds me a little bit of 2010 and 9, or let me scale that back. 9 and 10. I didn't mean to say it backwards. We had a good running game. We had Spiller, we had Harper, we had Ellington. We also still had Daquan Bowers, Jarvis Jenkins, Brandon Thompson, Andre Branch. You had good on good. We had veterans up front. Landon Walker. We had Antoine McLean. We had Dalton Freeman, who was an All-American. I think every year he was there. I'm trying to think of some of the guys we had. I think Chris Harrison was still there, who went along and played time in the NFL.
Long time.
And I mean, it was just good on good. Iron sharpens iron. You had a stable of guys that could run the ball, and you had a defense that could rush and run stop. So I wouldn't say be worried, because you know what we can do on the defensive line. You saw it last year, and you saw it, and all respect to Wes Goodwin, you saw the talent, and you saw what we could do when we were clicking on all cylinders. But when you have a experienced offensive line coming back with Miller and Lay and those guys up front, you kind of it's just going who's going to win that rep. It's kind of is it going to be we're trying to get outside zone or we're trying to get a toss and Miller or Lay gets the best of Parker or Helt, one of those guys. It's iron sharpens iron. I would not say that you need to be worried. I think with the defensive coordinator we picked up, it kind of reminds you of Steele days. When Steele was there, we had a bunch of talent. And then Brent comes in and we just went in this nasty attack mode. And that's kind of what Tom Allen's reminded me of, like a more aggressive. And I don't really want to say more aggressive because Brent was a heck of a DC. But they're very similar, high energy, always attacking. And then when you go in O-line, we picked up Matt Luke, who's been there, and we kind of went from Brad Scott to Robbie Caldwell. So it's kind of like a glimpse of what we had in the past, and I just think it's good on good.
That's kind of the way I look at it. 'Cause, talking to a couple of people I know that were there, they just made it sound like it was very competitive.
Yeah.
We're making plays. It's not like the offense owned the defense or the defense owned it. To me, that's what you want to hear.
That's exactly what you want to hear.
And that's kind of the way Dabo made it sound after the scrimmage, too. I think he said it was the most competitive that they've had in a long time for a first scrimmage, because usually you hear the defense is whipping the offense or the other way around. But, I heard some good things about the defense from the scrimmage Saturday, so I tend to agree with you there.
Well, I can tell you, man, that what we added on and just Alexander and Will Helt, those two guys, I mean, obviously you want to have a front seven that's very dominant, which we have. But adding on those two key guys, and we got them early. We got them early in the portal. It wasn't like they were last day trying to figure out where they want to go. Like, we got those guys early.
Especially Helt.
And Helt is, I don't know if you've seen him yet, but he's a monster.
I saw him in the spring, but I didn't see him up close until last week one day. Oh, my God, he's a monster.
Yes, monster. He's a monster.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
And Alexander, I remember when we were recruiting him, and he went to Bama, obviously, and now he's come back. Kind of just shows you, what kind of Coach Sweeney is, what kind of team he wants to be a part of as well. And that kid, what you've been hearing is 100% true. His work ethic, his leadership. I mean, I'm excited because, when you add him with Woodaz and what's his name? Don't tell me, Sammy Brown. Man.
Yeah, at the parts of practice that we've been allowed in to see, particularly last week when they moved over to or earlier this week when they moved over to Jervy.
Mm-hmm.
Allware was, we just get to watch a lot of the drills, and they kick us out before the good stuff. Boware was, I'm assuming, intentionally mixing up the rotation so we couldn't get any kind of idea who was running behind Sammy and Woodaz. But, man, Alexander looks like a dude, man. He looks like a dude.
Well, one thing to piggyback on what you're saying is they do a lot of that because, one, you want to create competition. You want to mix it up. If you've heard in the spring and over the summer and early camp, you've heard Sweeney said Alexander was rotating with ones and twos. It's a good thing to do that because sometimes you need a leader guy to be in that second rotation to bring guys around him up. And sometimes you need to, even if it's for a couple reps, set a starter back, not intentionally, but just to put him in that role. Because, when you get in the game, there may be substitution. There may be injury. So you want to get these guys all playing on the same cylinder. So when they do get in the game, there's nothing to worry about as far as, he's never played alongside this guy. He's never played alongside McLeod and any of those other guys that may be in that second rotation. But I can tell you from knowing Boulware in person, I was around when he was in his junior and senior year, and the guy brings a lot of intensity to the table. And when you look at the defensive coordinator, who brings even more intensity to the table, and you got a young pack of dogs that are hungry. And I don't think these guys are just hungry out to prove that they're one of the best linebacking core. I think these guys are out to prove that we are the best team in the nation, and we can be when we put it all on field.
Yeah, you go to practice and all you hear is Tom Allen on that microphone. We're going to be the best tackling team in America. We're going to be the best tackling team in America. I mean, it's just it's a different feel over there this year.
Yes, sir.
The starting offensive line, if you'd asked me that 2 days ago, I'd have had an easy answer. I'm not so sure anymore. Now, that depends on Parks and what happens with him, but I would just say I would look at Colin Sadler and Harris Sewell and Elijah Thurman as potential candidates to run out there first. But we'll have to see how that plays out because, the goal is to get the best 5 guys on the field, right?
Right. And I would agree with you of what you just said. And like I said, Lay and Miller are going to be there. Those are the two, the veteran guys that you look at. I think it's honestly, it's going to pan out. I think you need another week or two. I think they got maybe one more like scrimmage, full on scrimmage. Anything. Yeah. Usually after that, we start tapering it down to more half line or half type days scrimmages. So once you get some more reps and you kind of see who's grinding it out, who's pushing through, who's not making the same mistakes, who's being more disciplined on technique and Simon and things like that, I think that's where you're going to kind of figure out who in that interior 3 may end up being the guys.
Hey, and I was wrong about that. The next scrimmage is Thursday.
Oh, they probably moved it up because of the weather.
I get my days. They start all right. I'm up here by myself. They all start running together.
Well, it's typically on Saturdays, but sometimes if there's a certain weather condition or how fast Coach Sweeney might be moving, they do change it. And I think it's this weekend. The coast we're supposed to be getting a lot of weather down here in Charleston from that Hurricane Aaron that is approaching the Atlantic. So that potentially could be why, because it's probably gonna be a lot of rain on Saturday, Sunday, and all of that.
Man says he will never forget Nuke and Brandon in the LSU game in 2012.
Oh, man. So that was a highlight of my career. That was the second time that year we had played in the Georgia Dome. Obviously, the first game at Auburn, I didn't have my best game. I had an average game, had some key drops, but I remember going back into that game, and I was saying, I'm going to finish my career as best as I can. And never forget, Sammy goes down and everybody's just like panicking. And we're sitting there like, we didn't have Sammy for 3 games early on. As talented as this group is with Ellington and Hopkins and Brown and Brian and Sharon Peak and myself and Roderick McDowell. And you could just go on and on and on and on. But we just talk about the talent. Todd was the quarterback. Isaiah Battle was the left tackle. Brandon Thomas, Dalton Freeman again. And we knew what we could do. Let's just put it that way. We knew how good we were. And just like yesterday, I'll never forget that last drive. And to flip back to page 1 drive, Todd always reminded me, he's like, everybody talks about the 4th and 16. Nobody talks about the 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 12, the drive before, where not only you told Morris to call the wheel route, he's like, I'm throwing it off my back foot, and you catch it at the last second. We convert. DeAndre scores to bring the game closer within 2. And then we get the ball back after 3 and out, and you call the switch route on the 4th and 16, and Nuke makes this crazy, I always call it the baseball slide catch, and, we just go down the field. Crazy thing is, if anybody rewatches that play, look to the left side of the field, look how wide open Adam Humphries is. We could have won the game right then and there. He's running. They were so keyed on myself and DeAndre on the right side. They left Adam Humphries running down the middle of the field wide open. I'm talking about my 1-year-old son could have threw the ball to him and he would have caught it and scored. But that was a moment, man. I think that was people always talk about when was the hump that Clemson got over. And I think outside of the building phase of the teams before us, the years before us, I think that was that critical moment of here we are, we're about to turn the page to be elite. And I'll never forget, man, just sitting on the sideline. I think I had my head down, praying like Chandler, please hit this field goal, which he had a great year that year.
Yeah, he
And
did.
man, I'll never forget his sophomore year going to that year, and he was money. And I mean, dude, he just you talk about game winner, and the rest is history. Now, we build on championships, and Clemson's where is that now?
Yeah, I remember that night very well. I wasn't there. I was at my dad's house watching it with him, and as soon as Sammy went down, he went to sleep, man. I woke him up. I woke him up right before Taylor was about to kick the field goal, and he couldn't believe it, and so he had to stay up all night to watch the replay.
Yeah, it's well, it was one of those things where if you were, I mean, you know how good both teams were. LSU had a crazy three-headed monster running game that year, along with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. And if you watched them all season, they really should have been better than what they were. Now, I'm not going to say that's a discredit to Les Miles or whomever, but I just think sometimes when you get too much eye candy, you don't know what to do with it. And when you got a three-headed monster running back and you got two elite wide receivers, you sometimes your poison can be too deadly to where it self-destruct. And I think they were running the ball like crazy that game. And for some reason, they decided to throw three passes in a row, and
I'll never
Malachi Goodman just ate their lunch. And we were just sitting there like, you're running the ball, and you only got like a minute or 2 minutes left. Why are you throwing the ball? And to our benefit, it helped us obviously, but I just never understood that. But that just to me, man, that was one of the games that I live in. I tell my son and kids about all day. Like this was the game. This is the final game of my college career, and it was awesome.
Aaron wants to know if you got any good Todd stories.
Man, do I have any good Todd stories? I got a lot of them, but some of them we'll just we'll leave that what goes on in Vegas or Clemson we'll leave stays in there. But Todd, honestly, man, I'll tell y'all about if you watch the LSU celebration, we had this thing. Everybody was trying to figure us out. We would do our celebration so we had this thing called like this team seal thing, man, and nobody knew what it was. We would just every time we scored, we beat somebody, we made any type of TikTok videos, we would just do like this seal barking noise. Like it was hilarious. And nobody knew what it was. And it literally came from it was Jerron Brown and Taj. And I'm gonna throw myself in there because I was a part of it too. But we would every Friday, every Thursday, Friday, sorry. We traveled on Friday. We stayed in the hotels Friday night. We had a game Saturday, and we went and saw a movie every Friday. And you would just hear this weird seal noise, whether it was in the movie theater or whether we were getting ready for a curfew or whatever. And everybody on the hall was like, man, who is making this seal noise? Who is making this seal noise? And nobody could figure it out, man. And Taj was one of the main ones. Like when we beat LSU, he was determined to let the world know that night. And if you can find the clip of us on the stage talking about all the things Clemson went through after Sweeney talks. I think Rashad Hall got up there and talked. Taj talked, and he was saying, like, we're about to turn up the night, this, and then I can't remember if it was me or Jerron that got up there, and everybody starts doing the CO bark and this, that. And I just thought it was funny because we always kept it as like a little inside joke thing. But that's one of the few, and it's not too extreme because I can't get too extreme, but we'll start there.
All right. Travis asks, is this the most complete team Clemson's had since the last national title?
When you look on paper, I would say so. I really did like the 19 team that went on to play in the national championship, that lost to LSU. I think a couple of things just didn't go our way in that game, and they had two stud receivers in Jefferson and oh man, what's the guy of Cincinnati? Jamar Chase.
Chase.
And I mean, that's when I realized, okay, we might not be that good in the secondary as we thought. We were good, but they were just better. And you see what they're doing, obviously, in the NFL. Two of the top receivers, but I would say so. I think we had obviously lost the Power Rangers the year before in the draft, so we had some veterans, but we didn't have that same front line. Like, you know what you was getting out the Power Rangers. And I think LSU just kind of took that away because we didn't have that elite pass rush, and they just took advantage of it one-on-one. So when you look at this team on paper and you see what we got on that front line and what we added and the back end, the veteran linebackers, Adder Alexander, like I said, you really don't. We really didn't lose anything. And I would say when you flip to the offensive side, you got Cade coming back for another year. This would be year 3, depending on how you want to look at it. And you look at what we have at wide receiver. We're like 6 deep at receiver. I mean, you're talking about Tristan Smith, who came in when we lost some of the younger guys. You got Wesco, you got TJ, you got Williams, you got Tyler Brown coming back off injury, and you still got Turner, who's still, I heard, is one of the fastest, if not the fastest on the team. And then when you look at the running back group, you kind of say, well, question mark, but you got more than one guy, and that's always good, because having just one guy can sometimes bite you in the end. But I think this is probably the most complete since our last national title run, especially with all the leadership, the playmakers, and it all starts up front and with number 2.
I would agree. I think you got more depth along the defensive line than that 2019 team had. I think that was probably one of the problems, trying to slow that LSU offense down. But plus all the production you got coming back. You got like 80% of the production from last year coming back. That's a lot, particularly when you got a quarterback who's going into his 3rd year running the same offense, same offensive coordinator. I mean, all those young receivers like you just talked, Wesco and more, they're not freshmen anymore. They've had a year. They're acclimated. They know, they're going to be. They should take a jump this year. I mean, I just think, on paper it is anyways. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Here's one of your boys, Quandon Christian.
Quandon, I got to call you. I did say I'd call you back the other day. I am going to call you. That's one of my close brothers. He was actually at my wedding as well. His son is a couple months older than my son, and we joke all the time about those two meeting each other and growing up and possibly playing football together. But yeah, that's my guy right there. I can say that's my brother for life.
Is Tyler Brown as improved and ready as his teammates and coaches keep saying? Sound like he's impressed everybody.
Let's go back to his freshman year. I thought he was very, very impactful. We were trying to search for answers at receiver, kind of a letdown year with the guys we had at the time. And I thought he came in and did exceptionally well as a freshman. Obviously, he got hurt and didn't play much last year. But, I mean, the kid, just from what I saw as a freshman, was really good. And speaking to some of the guys that's on staff now, he's been doing exceptionally well. I think he might be one of those guys that wins comeback player of the year. If that's the thing that Clemson gives out as far as Coach Sweeney when they do accolades and all that. But from what I've been hearing, yes, he's been doing exceptionally well, which is why I made the comment we're like 6 guys deep. So
I believe they got
looking forward to it.
I believe they can go 6 deep too. And going back to what you said about Cole Turner being the fastest guy, I actually asked him that the other day, and he said you might have to ask Wesco about that.
Well, I can tell you this: they all got some speed. I don't know. I can tell you one thing: when and Quandon can tell you this too. When we all were playing, I don't know who the fastest was. I think Sharon or Martavius was the fastest. I cannot remember who won the race that day. But you talk about elite speed, Sammy, Martavius, Sharon, and even Mike Bellamy. That 4 right there those guys were running. I mean, I'm talking running.
I bet that surprises some people to hear that Martavius or what's Sharon might have been faster than Sammy.
Well, I think Sammy was more so like I like to compare Sammy to CJ Spiller, elusive, could cut on a dime, could be at top speed in 3 steps. He did all your return game. He could do reverses. He could do all that. Martavius was a little bit more 6'5" instead of 6'1", longer stride. But his stride, I mean, he could move. And then Sharon was a stronger runner than the 2, but he was more straight line. So when we saw it in practice, it was just like, dang, like we got like 4 guys running 4.2, 4.3 right now. But that was just a different speed class.
This one's right up your alley. Brandon's thoughts on the tight end out there.
I knew this question was coming. So, like we talked about, I commented on last week, talking about Pat Henry and Sapp and those guys. I thought Pat Henry showed us some promise last year with some of the plays he made behind Brenningstool. I know everybody's kind of wondering. It's just like when Dwayne left and when I left, you had this question mark of who would be the guy. And then Leggett came along, and then we kind of had a little drop. And then the kid before Brenningstool, I was just watching him the other day in preseason. Oh, man, he got drafted to the Chargers.
Davis
Allen, who was – I thought I was expecting him to come back for another year. I thought he had a great year that year. I mean, he looked really well. But I think this is kind of one of those years where you're trying to figure out who's going to be the guy. And Pat Henry kind of reminds me of Dwayne a little bit. Kind of big, physical, can run, can catch, can run routes. Maybe not as smooth as a route runner and a ball catcher that Brenningstool was. But that's kind of how me and Dwayne were. I was more of a receiving threat. Dwayne was more of your complete package type guy. Yeah, but I think those guys can complement each other. I think anytime, again, like we said last week, you have elite guys around him. You look at Williams, Wesco, TJ, Tyler Brown. Allah, what does this bring you back to? 2011, 2012, DeAndre, Sammy. You got all that help around these guys, so it takes a lot of pressure off of filling the void of one guy. And I think that's where Pat Henry and those guys will not have as much pressure as filling the void is, okay, we got to make this amount of production. One of us, they each can contribute, but when you're 6 deep at receiver, how much do you need those guys to contribute? So I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be very productive in the running game. To answer that question. And I think we'll throw a lot of production between the crew of tight ends together to fill the void.
I'm like you. I think those 2 guys, Olsen, Pat Henry, and Christian Beckner, are gonna really complement each other very well. I think maybe Beckner does some things a little bit better than Olsen, Pat Henry, and then Olsen, Pat Henry has some things he probably does a little bit better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to complement each other well, and I think we'll see a lot of both of them. How much prep is going on for you, or is it just general season?
Well, Mr. Brian, let me just tell you, I would be at a disservice just if I kind of ran my mouth on that. I can't let too much of the cat out the bag, but I will say a lot of prep is going into LSU. One, I think Clemson's at that stage where we're not trying to figure out can we be elite. I think the program is elite. So we're not looking to going into game ones or trying to figure out like who we are. Should we win this game? I think we're very capable of winning this game. So I think every game, especially the big ones, like this and like Georgia last year, there's a lot of prep going into it. Obviously, you're trying to find out who's going to win battles in certain areas as far as tight end, running back, safety, and things like that. But there's still a lot of prep going in. Where you get that at is the focal point of what we're going to run. Whether it be on the offense, what kind of packages we're going to run on defense, how much blitzing, how much man-to-man, things like that, because they do have a good skill group in LSU as well. So I'm not going to really just say it's general season prep, but I will say there's probably more so game planning going on for LSU just because we're a couple weeks away from that game. So, I'll leave it as that.
And I'll add this: fall camp ends on the 19th, so it'll be full fall LSU after that. The 19th, next Tuesday. That's the
and
last.
From my experience, we were always ahead. We kind of sprinkled some things in here and there, but yeah, that's I said more than just regular season general prep.
Dabo's next press conference is Thursday after the scrimmage. Dabo says Tom Allen will be upstairs, so who's going to be the Tasmanian Devil on the sidelines like BV was? Maybe Bower.
You know what? I was going to say that. I was going to definitely say Bower just because of if you look at him, obviously young, very intense. And this will be interesting because when my playing days, we had Steele was down on the field with us as well as was the defense coordinator. We were just Brent as well, and Wes was, but I guess for Allen, I don't know if this is something that he likes to do upstairs or it's just you see things different from different angles. You see what the offenses are in and vice versa. If you're an OC that's upstairs, you kind of get to see what's going on. So this is going to be interesting, but to answer that question, I think the Tasmanian Devil will be Boulware.
Yeah, I don't know somebody's asking, is he going to jump in the faces of the DBs? I don't know who's jumping in, but
you know what? I know who's going to be jumping in the faces of the DNs, and that's Chris Rumph.
That guy's pretty intense himself.
Listen, I'll never forget, man, Chris Rumph. He came out of Clemson. I sent him a text, and I said, man, I'm excited you're back. Obviously he did some time in the NFL and all that, and some other places college-wise, but he was just obviously he had his boys coming behind him, Elijah, and I can't remember his other son's name, but he was always intense. With Daquan Bowers, he was intense with Ricky Sapp. He was intense with Corey Crawford, Andre Branch. It was never a favoritism, never because this guy's All-American, I'm not going to yell at him when he does something incorrect or he's not giving it all. You get the same energy with Chris Rumph that you get from a guy who's played a little bit to a guy who's played a lot. And that's why I made the joke that I know he'd be in the defense end's ears all the time.
Yeah, again, we don't get us in the meeting. We don't get all these large viewing windows in the practice. We just man, it's fun to watch him do what he does, man.
Oh, he's fun. He's fun.
Yeah, he's intense. Biggest sleeper on the team.
Man, honestly, outside of all of the hype around Randall. Man, I got to pick another one because I was very, very excited for what Jarvis Green could do for us. A lot of people don't talk much about.
He's hurt, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I got to pick another one.
I got you.
This who my sleeper was prior to him getting injured. Um, Obviously, he did some good things for us last year, especially with the touchdown against Texas. I was very excited to seeing how we were going to use him, and I thought he may be the one piece that it may not be every game he scores a touchdown, but he will contribute in some kind of form or fashion. So when he got hurt, I was like, man, this was like my one sleeper. But I think if I had to pick a second guy out of I'm gonna do two guys. I'm gonna do one offense and one defense. If I had to pick two guys now that my one guy is hurt, I'm definitely going to go with Tristan Smith because, again, this is a receiver that he's 6'5". He has ball skills. I think he showed in the spring game as well. I think, if, and God forbid anybody's injured, but different packages, if we go spread it 4 wide, 5 wide, I think this is our home run hitter right here as far as playmaker. A lot of attention is going to be on Williams, Wesco, and TJ. So I think when you look at it, you say, man, who's that other guy? Obviously, Tyler's coming back from injury, but I think he is going to be our game changer and the biggest slept on because, again, when you don't have film on a guy, especially playing on a power 4 level, most teams like in LSU, Alabama, South Carolina, they're going to say, hey, we're going to play you one-on-one. What can you do? You can't replace 6'5". You can't replace the vertical he has. You can't replace the length. I think he's a sleeper on offense. Defense. He's probably not a sleeper to everybody just because they're like, well, he was at Alabama. But I really think this Alexander kid is the one guy that's – he may not be your sleeper because he's went to elite school in Alabama, but I think he's at Clemson now, and I think he's going to be the guy that everybody's going to get to know very quick. All right, this guy is for real.
Yeah, I agree with Alexander wholeheartedly. And I think Tristan Smith's going to have a big season too. Make no mistake. There's a reason there's a reason Dabo went to the portal and got a big 6'5" guy.
Yeah, and honestly, when was our last elite receiver that was over 6'1", 6'2"?
It's been a minute.
Justin Ross, T. Higgins.
Yeah, it's
been a little minute.
It might be a Ben T, and it might have to go back that far.
Yeah.
I think if he stays healthy, Amari Adams is going to play some this year too.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that kid, man. That kid's an in-state guy too, I believe.
South Florence.
Yeah, redshirted, right? They redshirted him, if I'm not mistaken.
This is his first year.
No, right.
He's a true freshman right now.
Right, because he was in the same game as it was his what was his teammate from South Florence that went to he's at Carolina with his brother.
Jaden Sellers.
Yeah, there we go. Yep.
That's where I went to school. South Florence.
Oh, South Florence. I didn't know that. So wait, Malachi went to West Florence. All right, okay. I got the two mixed up.
All right, here's one for you. Do you think Clemson moving more toward receiving threats at the tight end position have negatively impacted the run game recently?
No, and the reason why I say no, I think everybody's Mr. Rose. I think everybody's trying to get to that spread / West Coast kind of offense where you're more heavy picking the field apart and downfield. It's always going to be hard to find your Rob Gronkowski's type guys out of the bunch where you got a guy that could dominate the DN, dominate the line of scrimmage, and go out and, catch 100, 200 yards a game. even some of the elite tight ends now, some of them don't have that. You got a couple here and there, but these guys are, playing a more run style offense first, and they're just crazy athletic. I don't think that negatively impacting our running game. I just think we're moving to a process that it complements each other. You're going to have a smooth running game with an elite passing game, and if you can do both when you have the pieces, I think that kind of gets you where you want to go.
All right, we're getting toward the hour mark here, so I've been waiting on this one. Brandon,
Lord, whoo wee, man. Honestly, I haven't had one yet because I've been trying to figure out. So my wife has a family reunion, right? And I was so like down that we couldn't go at first, because I thought family reunion was the same weekend. So I've been trying to wrap my head around how am I going to go to this game with the family reunion going on? Do I go and come back? Do I do whatever? But it's not even that weekend, so I'm going to be in Clemson that weekend. But if I had to give you a prediction right now, Mr. Kitchens, I would say Clemson 31, LSU 17.
Yeah, I've been saying for weeks, I think Clemson's going to win that game. I'm going to wait till it gets closer, though, before I give a score. I reserve the right to change my mind depending on
well, obviously, I think we're going to win. The reason why I give that score, and I'm giving LSU, they have some elite skill guys. I think there's a pot that's really gotten stirred with their quarterback getting hurt in practice. I think they're going to do what every coach is going to do if he's capable of play. How much do you protect how injured or how bad he got injured? I think you weather that storm until the game comes and you find out how good he is going to be. Obviously, if he's not moving the way he's moving or throwing, he's definitely affected by what may have happened. Obviously, nobody's going to tell us in depth. And then I just look at what we have, and we're not going to be perfect the first game. So I'm not going to say 31-0, 31-3, although it could happen. I think once intensity wears down, guys, everybody's going to be on this high of this national televised game. I think once they settle in, we start to, push that lead away.
And LSU's got to replace 4 starters along that offensive line.
Right.
According to some of the reports coming out of there, they've had some problems up there early on.
Yeah. Not only that, and rest in peace to Lacey, the kid who passed away, but he was a very talented guy out of that core that was on the verge of entering the draft before everything that happened unfolded. You're losing him, and for OL, it's huge when you're trying to protect the guy to get the ball out to all these elite people, and then they're saying he's had an injury in practice. Could that injury come from his O-line not being as good and someone may have nicked up against him? Or did he just, step wrong or whatever happened? So, the question is still to be found out, but we'll find out soon.
All right. Last one here for you. Of course, it's going to focus on South Carolina. Carolina.
First of all,
South Carolina might be better than they're ranked.
First of all, let me just tell you this. I hate William Bryce Stadium. You know why I hate it? Because that might be the most disrespectful fan base I've ever seen. And I love my friends and people that go to South Carolina. But I would never get over these people just throwing bottles and stuff at you when you're on the sideline, on the field. We got coaches getting hit in the head. Just nasty crew. But let's just talk about my thoughts. I respect their coach, Beamer. I think he's a similar young version of like how Coach Sweeney started. Young, energetic, wanting the players over, can relate. You see him dancing in the locker room. Who's this remind you of? Dabo Sweeney. I think he's starting to build that program because Spurrier kind of left it in a hole, and they hadn't recovered really until Beamer over these last couple of years. I think they found a leader in Lenoris. I think they're starting to believe again. ranking, I think the way they finished last year, obviously with obviously beating us, that kind of gave them an edge of where they might be ranked, and they've had a lot of success in recruiting, obviously as well. So I think they may be just a little bit higher than where they are, but they're definitely a top 20 team, definitely a top 20. The way they finished, I think they'll be in the conversation of the SEC championship. And I'm not saying they're going to make it there, but I think if some things go their way, if Lenore's can deliver, I think they could be right there at the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, we've talked about Clemson and how great we can be putting the pieces together in production. It's always a crazy environment playing there. They got the sandstorm going. They got all this going. So I think the atmosphere is crazy. But I think we can go in there just like K did 2 years ago, but with a production of what Deshaun did when he was there and just ate him alive. The same thing as Trevor ate him alive. I think we're capable of that. And the same way Kelly Bryant went in there and ate him alive. I think this is the type of team we have this year where we can weather that first quarter storm where everybody's hyped, and then we start putting it together and say, all right, can you stop us?
Yeah, at least that game's at noon, man. They won't be all sauced up and all that stuff the way it usually is when they play at night there. So
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to be like more 3:30-ish, because that's always around Thanksgiving and
holiday weekend.
yeah, but I mean, I'll take 12 o'clock. Like you said, they're not as sauced up and stuff, so I'll we can go with that as well.
All right, man. We want to thank you very much for joining us here tonight. It's great to get some insights from a former player who's still around the program a lot. You're back coaching at your alma mater, right?
Yes. So I've been. This is year 4 at Hanahan, coaching receivers and helping out with tight ends as well. As most of you may know, I started my career as a receiver at Hanahan, but I was still in what you call like a raw stage of growth production. When I got to Clemson, I was 205, then 215, then 230. So I was really a tight end, but I was just playing receiver in high school. So I'm back there. This is, like I said, year 4, back at Hanahan, and very excited about our team this year. Young across the board. About 75, 80% of our team is sophomores and freshmen with a sprinkle of juniors and seniors. So we got a really, really talented team. We're going to have to throw them to the fire and see how well they respond. But I really think we can be really special this year, and definitely their juniors and senior years, because as you know, when you have programs that you bring up from B team and junior varsity, and they've been in a system for years, confidence builds. So these guys, they're more familiar with the playbook, the physicality of the game, and that experience. When you put that all in one pot, you can be really good with the chemistry. So I'm excited to see how we do, and I'm excited to see how the next couple of years goes as well.
So you said y'all got a bunch of young guys this year, right?
Yes. So our starting quarterback last year was a freshman. And we had 2 of his now 6 or 7 receivers that were freshmen as well. And now we have, I think 4 of them are sophomores now, and then we have a couple of seniors and juniors as well, as long as running backs are sophomores. And I think we got 1 junior. Tight ends the same way, sophomores and juniors. And then you got some sprinkles of sophomores on that O-line with 1 senior. So I think we're going to be pretty productive. It's going to be interesting to see how the season unfolds, but I think we're going to be a special team to look at this year and the years to come.
When y'all start?
Our first game is next Friday at Philip Simmons.
At Philip Simmons. Anybody in the area, go down there and check out Brandon and Hanahan. Well, I very much appreciate you coming on and doing this, man. I know these guys love to hear somebody other than myself speak on here every Monday night. We will have to do it again in the near future, man. I will get with you in the future about that. But again, I want to thank you again. A lot of great insight, man. This was some good stuff tonight.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me. And like you said, anytime, man, just let me know and we'll make it happen, brother.
Hey, man, we'll do it. Before we jump out of here, I want to thank the sponsor over at A-Glass, 2 locations in the PD, 1 in Florence, 1 in Sumter. Take care of all your auto glass needs. Get yourself a free quote today, myaglass.com. Once again, I want to say thanks to Brandon. Right back here next Monday night, 7 p.m. See you guys in.